At the other end of the spectrum, Brendan, would you be flicking, if you're a selector, would you be tempted to flick Davey Warner a sneaky text to say, are you available by chance in February or
Well,
March? What are you up to?
look, there's no doubt he's played well. There's no doubt, it's been amazing, a bit like Steve Smith as well. But I think that ship has sailed. We need to get better. There's no point us going back. These guys have had great careers. I mean, Davey Warner, for my mind, I think he is the best international cricketer in all three formats in the last 20 years, bar none. I think he's better than Kohli. I think he's better than Steve Smith. Rohit Sharma, all these greats. He's the top of the tree. I think David Warner has been the best cricketer in the last 20 years on all three formats, and he's proven that. So it doesn't surprise me that he's scoring runs. He'll be disappointed that the Thunder aren't getting into the finals. That'll be his big thing, because as a captain, you want your team to be winning. He's leading from the front. They're not following. They need to sort out their plan. They need to sort out their list as well. So, I wouldn't be going back to Davey Warner and these type of things. I think that's just one that's just moved on. I know Steve Smith's come out and said that, look, he looks great and wants to go to the Olympics. I think that's too far gone to Olympics. I mean,
You do,
I
yep,
could,
2
I
years
could
down the track.
definitely put him in the squad for Sri Lanka, but you got to give credit to the selectors. I think they've done a great job. I think the selections have been spot on. The only thing I would say this summer is, they should have played a spinner at the SCG in the last Test match. But apart from that, you can't question what they've done. So the plans have been perfect. Pat Cummins and George Bailey have done a great job. So, they're sticking to their game plan. And unfortunately for Steve Smith, they couldn't squeeze him into the squad, even though I would have liked him to squeeze in there somehow. But who do you take out? At this stage, it's a tricky one. So, that's a hard one.
And just running you through, and you talk about that, I suppose, that disappointing campaign in the Caribbean West Indies back in 2024 in that World Cup as we move towards that. We last won in Dubai in 2021. The squad was announced, a little while ago, and I think you've touched on this briefly, but I might get you to elaborate a little bit more. You talk about the fact that we've got a couple of players being rested. Matt Maxwell's not going to Pakistan, for example. We still don't know necessarily where Josh Hazlewood is at in that team and whether or not he will be fully primed. He's someone who works exceptionally well and looked so magnificent as we saw in that against India before he hurt himself. Pat Cummins, I guess, is in the same boat. And you run through the squad. I'll give a quick run through for those who haven't heard it. Mitch Marsh is captain. We've got Bartlett in there. Connolly, who you touched on before. Tim David, we don't know where he's at injury-wise. Cameron Green, Nathan Ellis, Travis Head, Josh Inglis is over as the sole wicketkeeper, so perhaps a little bit of a gamble there. Then you look at Matt Kuhneman, Glenn Maxwell, Matt Short, Marnus Stoinis, and Adam Zampa. So, quite a few spinning options there. Some queries about whether our premier paceman will be fit, but you've got a couple of guns here, obviously, and Ellis and Bartlett as well, who are more than handy players, aren't they?
Yeah, no, look, I agree with that. I mean, the bowling side of it doesn't sort of worry me because I know what you're going to get from Pat Cummins and Hazlewood. We saw Pat Cummins in the Test match when he came back and played the last Test match and then rested. So I don't have a problem with Pat Cummins or Hazlewood because I know what you're going to get from those guys. What worries me would be Maxwell. I'm surprised that he's been rested or workload relieved or whatever you want to call it for Pakistan because he should be playing. He's had a pretty ordinary BBL from his standards, but he's a good enough player to turn it around. I'd rather see him play in Pakistan. We'll see him in the finals. I think him leading up to, he needs more work rather than less work. So I'd be putting the heat on him. Tim David could be a little bit of an issue because you haven't batted for so long. I mean, batting in World Cup conditions are tricky. They're not easy when you're coming in the middle order for Tim David. You need rhythm. So hopefully he comes back and he plays as many games leading into it as possible. I think the Australian selectors are thinking like a Travis Head situation where they rested him and gave him right up to the last minute and then played him. Then he got 100 in the final in the 50-over World Cup. So I think they can get away with that. And, they're closer to it. They're closer to the players. They understand. I mean, probably for these senior players, it's more about their mental approach if they can get into the right space. I still think that you still need a bit of a rhythm as a batter, especially in the middle order. I think Travis said up the top of the order can get away with it because it's a new ball, fields up, and you feel a bit. I think a little bit easier in terms of you got a bit more time. But if you're out there with Tim David, you've got 15 balls and you've got to try and hit 30, you haven't batted for a month. That's a bit of an issue. So I don't worry about the bowling side of it. I think the batting side of it's always an issue. You touched on the spin. I think Cooper Connolly has been the most improved bowler in the BBL along with Marley Beardman. I mean,
Yep.
Cooper Connolly's bowling, he's nearly taking into the situation of a Maxwell. Oh, I think Maxwell hardly bowled in this BBL, which I don't get. Stoinis just hasn't used him at all. So I think Cooper Connolly will be, he should be in the team no matter what, batting 6, 4, 5, 8, wherever it is. But his bowling is really, really handy. A left arm spinner in subcontinent conditions is always very good to take. So I love that. As you said, you got Maxwell with the option with the ball as well. And then you got Koerdeman as a bit of a backup. Zampa didn't play the last game against the Renegades. He's been rested, but I think he's been the best white ball bowler, probably just outside Hazelwood, but he's been the lock for the last couple of years, Zampa. He's been the backbone of our bowling. So I got no problems with Zamps. I think it's a pretty good squad. It just depends what the format's going to be. You can only take 15, as you said. You got that backup keeper. I don't know, maybe Maxwell to do if something goes wrong, or Matthew Wade's in there as a coach. He might come out as well. So, answering your question, I think they've got it covered. Obviously there's always worry when you've got players that are injured, but I'm not worried about the bowling. I'd only be worried about the batting side of things.
And just look, before I let you go, and it's been a pleasure to have you on, Brendan, on the follow-on leading into the BBL finals, and then a big month of cricket to come for Australia in terms of Pakistan, and then the World T20 World Cup in Sri Lanka and also in India. We look at the format, and we've got a 5-match basically. There's a 20-team World Cup, so you roll through your first 5 teams. Effectively, You look at that and you think, well, we should get through. We've got sides like Oman and that. We should be okay. Then you go into another round-robin format, the Super 8s. It's an extended period just to try and progress, to try and get to that semi-final, isn't it? And I guess there's a small margin for error, but not much. You need to be on it, and it can be a little bit like Russian roulette, these sort of World Cups and T20 matches. So how do they prepare for that? How do they go about it?
Well, look, the Pakistan tour is a good one, but you're not going to get most of them. Probably only going to get 10 of them that are playing in those games. I think leading into these types of things, it's more about getting players fresh, and that's what I think that's what they're doing. Obviously Pat Cummins, Hazelwood come back from injury. Travis Head's had a bit of a break as well. They're rotating Maxwell and these type of things as well. So if they can get to that situation where they're fresh, that's probably a big plus. Like I said, I worry about the batting, the amount of digs that they're having. That's a bit of an issue for me. And when you go to the subcontinent, you get over there and you get through those the Super 8 series, and I'm expecting obviously the boys to get through to that and get into that last qualifying sort of period. You can hit the ground running and be nice and fresh, and I think that's it. It's been a big summer for Australians. So they've tried to rotate the rest of the players. They've done that. The proof's always in the pudding, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, you could always criticise Australia about resting players, and then they go and play in the IPL and they're saying that they're tired, but they come out and they win like they did against England in the Ashes. They won, so you can't question it. So it only gets in trouble when you don't win, and then the hallmarks start to open up a bit as well. But I think in the next year you're going to see a lot of changes, Cameron, because 1, they're ageing players. 2, they're trying to rotate them and rest them. And 3, there's so many test matches. I think there's 10 test matches in the next, 18 to 16 months. A lot of one-day tournaments. We play Bangladesh up in the top end after the World Cup. They travel then, I think, to South Africa. They come back into New Zealand. So I think we're going to see a lot of different players coming in and out of the teams.